Not much to come for Matt Hancock, who thought that he was going to be joining the United Nations in a new ambassadorial role, but I'm afraid it lasted as long as, well, a not very long thing. So, Rakib, poor Matt Hancock, he's had a year to forget, hasn't he?
Well, I think, it's thoroughly deserved. He's politically mediocre. When I heard about this appointment, which has now turned out to be a ghost appointment, it's not going ahead. He seemed very excited by it, but misplaced sense of excitement, and it seems like it's not going ahead.
Well, did the UN bottle it? Because there was a backlash after the announcement that he was appointed in this new role. And the backlash was based upon the fact that this week a House of Commons Select Committee deemed the government's COVID response to have been disgraceful, incompetent and wrong. Not a view I share, by the way, but you know, perhaps they didn't like the PR.
Possibly. The reality of the matter is, you look at Matt Hancock's, recent performance as in important roles in our democratic system. I was very surprised to begin with, if I was completely honest. So I'm not particularly. Well, I'll put it to you like this: the United Nations, they probably finally reached the right decision.
Did he find out that there were CCTV cameras at the UN HQ? And he thought,
uh-oh. Yeah. I think it just makes me laugh because it's like, apparently it was due to a technical hitch. That was the excuse he gave. He's probably given that excuse quite a few times.
Who was he hitched with?
Exactly, who was he hitched up with? The footage will probably be coming out soon. But I think Matt Hancock, I think his, my views on the way coronavirus has been handled are probably slightly different to yours, in the sense I think it's an absolute shit show. To put it mildly.
Oddly enough, we both disagree with what MPs said this week, because their argument was that we should have locked down sooner.
Yeah, and I think we shouldn't have locked down at all.
Not a view I share.
We shouldn't have locked down at all.
But of course, you know, in the sake of balance, of course, there are many people watching. The majority of the British public support the lockdown measures we've seen. And many scientific voices, including those at SAGE, think that it was the right thing to do. Of course, history will make a judgment on that one. I want to thank Greg, Matt and Cal, because they've done a bit of background footwork when it comes to Matt Hancock, especially his LinkedIn profile. Take a look at the before LinkedIn profile. This is what he had to say about himself. Matt Hancock, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, London, England, United Kingdom, with 500+ connections, a lot of them married women by the looks of it. Yeah. Well, let's have a look at the after. Oh, dear. Looks a bit lonely, doesn't it? All he's got is House of Commons. How the mighty have fallen, Andre.
Mark, look, I'm not comparing him to this, but you've got to bear in mind...
Oh, God, where's this going?
No, the UN gave a job to Colonel Gaddafi in the field of human rights, right? They have refused to lift... This isn't funny, but they've refused to lift diplomatic immunity from people who've been accused of aid for sex, or sex for aid, and yet Matt Hancock wasn't good enough. Yeah. These people have the lowest standards of any employer I've ever come across. I mean, it's just absolutely damning. Yeah. Although I have to say, that video of Matt Hancock with the Alan Partridge dubbed over the top was just, sickening. Really sickening. It would upset any right-minded individual.
Now, I'd like to throw Mr. Matt Hancock a bone. I've interviewed him a couple of times.
Oh. Bad phrase.
Very bad.
Bad phrase. Get out.
Minefield.
Get him out.
You know what I think happened? I've just cancelled myself.
Self-cancellation.
He was very courteous and generous with his time. In the interview, by the way, there was very little...
Because nobody else wants to talk to him. Nobody else wants to talk to him. That's why he was generous with his time. It was like, do you know, I had a friend of mine in 1996 who invited John Major to the Oval for a cricket match, and he was Prime Minister, and he came for 8 hours, and they said, has he not got anything better to do? Well, it's John Major, isn't it? Probably.
Very, very briefly, do you think that there's any way back for him in the political front line?
Yes, because everybody else is crap as well. Right? I mean, it's not as if you're looking at an all-star cast on the front benches of either political party.
Dominic Raab is irreplaceable. Yeah. How dare you?
He's rabid.
Nicely done.